In ages past, a corrupt mage named Garm used a set of runestones to summon a demon named Scorn. However, due to him being so greedy, Scorn ended up crushing him and imprisoning him to its underworld, but all the runescapes and anything else were all scattered, so now you have to go and rescue him, and also to get all the runestones back in process. This game is called Gauntlet Legends, as it came out originally in the arcades, but then was brought home to first on the Nintendo 64 and then PS1 and the Dreamcast. But for me, I actually played most of this on the Nintendo 64 as I previously actually still owned the game, and that was really how I got first introduced into the game. Now when you go to this game, you choose whichever character you want, suits your preference and whatever, and you go around and you destroy hordes of enemies. But in terms of like them spawning, you have to destroy these generators so that way that you can prevent them from respawning. You also collect keys to open doors or chests, but you also need gold in order to use them as your in-game currency, so that way you can spend them by upgrading your strength or like anything else that matters, or at least increase your health in any way, shape, or form. Which you will need to collect a bunch of money in order to do such thing. There's a shop in the main hub in the game, which you go to that wizard guy and then you can actually talk to him. You could even ask him about rune hints or world hints or anything else that matters, as this game does have a lot of secret passages for you guys to like discover. Some of them can actually be quite useful if you guys know what I mean. Now for this one, you could play up to 4 players, but for Nintendo 64 purposes, if you have like a jumper pack that is included in your base Nintendo 64, then you can only play up to 3 players. But if you have the Nintendo 64 expansion pack ram into the thing, you can play up to 4 players. So meaning, this was like at the time the definitive way to play it. Because here's the thing about the PS1 version. It's more of an inferior way to play it because it only supports up to 2 players, and you don't want to have that. And looking into the footage of the PS1 version recently, some of the levels look pretty much downgraded than comparing to its arcade counterpart, let alone the Dreamcast and Nintendo 64 versions. As one version as a inferior way to play the game. So, Dreamcast version also supports 4 players, but it also has its features which was taken from its enhanced and expanded counterpart, Dark Legacy, as I'll actually cover that in a different video, as I just want to focus on its original counterpart, as this is the one I mainly play the most out of the whole thing. In my own history of this game, this was like the only game I really played, and this is one of the very few Nintendo 64 games I've ever played back in the day. And a whole bunch of buddies of mine will always play this game with me too. Even if they do play by themselves, it's still one of those games that we always go back to playing to this very day. The only problem is we couldn't save progression because we never had a Nintendo 64 memory card, which is something you need to use in order to keep your character progress. It doesn't like save the game, it just saves your character progress. And that's pretty much it. But your progress still has the levels intact. But I'm just saying, if you guys were to come over to another person's house and take that memory card that has the game's intact data on there, then you guys can just essentially just keep playing with that same character and you have no problem. And all their stats are there too. Now, I never really played the Dreamcast version, nor have I owned the Dreamcast version. But it does sound like another definitive way to play it, but for me, I've always played the Nintendo 64 version. Plus the frame rate is pretty much on par on the system, which, for the 64 counterpart, it's actually like one of the games that you didn't think would get running because there's so many enemies on screen, but it runs. So what you need to do in this game is get the runestones, but not only that, find these little tower things, and make sure you unlock levels by progressing through these things. If you miss a runestone, the game will tell you, and you really need to start looking for these runestones, otherwise you may not progress through the game. You can get these by finding secret passages, or at least also defeating bosses. Go around, defeat numerous enemies, and you can level up yourself. It increases your strength, your armory, your speed, or anything else like that. All these attributes are all there for you guys to utilize. Now, all these characters have their own strengths and weaknesses, as I should say, because that's what you're going to be pretty much expecting. You could be a mage, you could be a warrior, you could be anything, but there are some characters that are locked in the game, which you'll need to unlock later on in the game. It's going to be nearly impossible to fight, and this game is really specifically designed as a multiplayer game. But I have seen people calling this game unbalanced, but I will just say that plenty of people were happy with this expanded counterpart, Dark Legacy, which came out on PS2, Xbox, and GameCube, which not only enhanced the game, but also pretty much has some brand new characters and levels, and not only the returning of the older levels, but they pretty much expanded it with brand new traps and enemies for you guys to fight. But again, I'll cover that in a separate video if I have to. There's also going to be like magic abilities along with some potions for you guys to use, but use the potions if this Grim Reaper tries to kill you or whatever, which they're a pain in the butt and they take away like what, 100 health from you? Yeah, be careful. And sometimes they actually can come out of these random chests that you'll open and you won't even expect them to come out at any given time. So usually either use the potions if the enemies are on you, like if if they're all like gather up on you and you have like no way out. So use that one and at least use the potion on the Grim Reapers if you have to. So you really need to use them because that's the only way to kill these Grim Reapers. As far as abilities go, if you guys grab it, it'll automatically turn on, but look, you can press the R button on the Nintendo 64 controller and you can just save it for later for like better uses. There's gonna be like golems for you guys to fight too, which, well, you're gonna need to if you guys want to progress, because those things will kick your butt. So those things will be insane to fight. But if you guys have like some of the abilities like I mentioned, you'll be able to fight them no problem. Sometimes you can become giant, sometimes you can be immortal, or sometimes you can shoot at enemies like 3 times at the same time, meaning you could shoot 3 projectiles at them, whether it be like an axe or mage spells or anything else like that. So it's sometimes strategy in this game has to come to play, otherwise you just spamming with the button is not going to work out for you guys. And I hate how people will say, well, there's no strategy in game, and then you have to get mauled. You're like, oh, how do I defeat this guy? I need a strategy. So if those are going to be those type of guys out there, then I don't know what else to tell them. So yeah, expect some secrets to find in this game, because all I can say is that sometimes secrets you might not even expect it to find or any way, shape, or form, but there are hints going to be around each level to tell you guys how to progress these levels. So for those who's going to say there is no such thing in this game, well, they probably didn't read the slip and just bypass it and act like it's nothing. Those slips will definitely help you gather information in order to complete these levels, whether it be like a rune being there or some sort of secret. So make sure you guys read them when you have to. There's gonna be like switches for you guys to activate. Sometimes those are just switches you hold for other players to bypass, or sometimes there'll be switches for you to open doors or anything else that sort of way. Maybe bridges too. So whenever you guys get a chance to, make sure you guys find a way to progress through. Sometimes there'll be like suicide bombers there too, which you'll hear them roaring, but you won't know where they're coming from. So you have to pretty much act quickly. Otherwise, they'll do some good damage on you. But again, if you're quick enough, you should have no problem taking them out. But each time you level up your character, your health and everything else will go up, so you shouldn't have a problem. All I can say is find some friends, because I highly recommend you guys play this in multiplayer fashion, as this is like specifically designed to be played upon. So that's all I can say about that part. So I think you guys would pretty much enjoy this game as much as everyone else that I know have done. But again, if you guys want more of the expanded version, then Dark Legacy is for you for PS2 and whatever. But the PS2 version, well, that's the one I played on, and that's the one that should definitely be played on, as I'll cover that at some point on whenever I keep playing that one. I know you guys can say it's the same game but different, but trust me, it has too many features for me to discuss on here just to even talk about this game. So whenever I get the chance, I'll cover that one, and then we'll go good from here on then when it comes to Dark Legacy. But Legends, I hope you guys enjoy playing that game for the time being.